54 past the hour, Mexico's president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, decided not to come here to Los Angeles for the Summit of the Americas because the U.S. refused to invite the Cuban regime to the summit. He specifically blamed Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chair Bob Menendez, saying the U.S. decision to exclude Cuba was made, quote, on the grudges of one man, forgetting the people, acting out of hate, and who has great influence but does not use it for good. With us now is New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez. Senator, it's always a pleasure to see you, sir. To start, I'd like your thoughts about what the Mexican president said about you.
Well, Jose, first of all, our relationship with Mexico is one of the most important relationships we have, certainly in the Western Hemisphere, if not in the world. It's a significant neighbor to our south, and we have deep cultural and historical ties. Having said that, I think that President López Obrador basically tried to blackmail President Biden into insisting that countries that are not democratic, countries like Venezuela, Cuba, Daniel Ortega's Nicaragua, that are dictators and despots, should have been invited to the summit. The summit is an opportunity for democracies of the hemisphere to come together in common cause to deal with how do we grow the economies to help more of our people, how do we deal with the challenges of climate change, how do we deal with the challenges of irregular migration. And so instead of coming to the summit and strengthening the relationship with the United States after 4 years of Donald Trump, he chose to stay away and side with dictators and despots. If that's what he claims is my problem, then so be it.
Well, was it correct, though, to not invite Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua? We see the number of Venezuelans that have left their country, more than 6 million. Cuba, there's almost a record number of Cubans that are leaving that island and trying to make it to the United States. Was it a bad or a good decision to not talk to those regimes that are causing a lot of the issues that we're seeing on our border?
Well, first of all, I applaud President Biden for upholding the standard of the summit to be a summit of democracies. The reality is all of these countries have signed on to the democratic charter of the Organization of American States, which is the hemispheric organization that brings people together similar to the United Nations globally. This is specific for the Western Hemisphere. They violate the democratic charter of the OAS that their country signed on to. So what is President Biden to do? To accept dictators and despots who are the drivers of migration in this country. As you just pointed out, the biggest numbers of people coming to our southern border are Venezuela, where nearly 6 million Venezuelans have fled Venezuela. Cuba, because of its dictatorship and the new wave of repression. Ortega in Nicaragua. Those three countries are driving the bulk of migration. Why? Because people are fleeing persecution. They are fleeing from their for their basic civil and human rights. And so I think, for the president to try to talk to dictators who are the ones driving these people away from their homeland is not going to change the reality there. I think it makes a very strong case that we support democracies and those who obey the rule of law and who observe human rights.
Senator, on another issue here at home, a small group of your Democratic and Republican colleagues are trying to come up with a bipartisan agreement on gun violence. Some of your Democratic colleagues are optimistic. Do you think that there is any reason or room for optimism?
Well, look, I certainly hope so. I'm not in the negotiations. Several of our colleagues, like Senator Murphy and Blumenthal, are. I would go further than what's being discussed. I supported an assault weapons ban when I was in the House of Representatives. I voted for it. I'm the sponsor of eliminating high-capacity magazines, magazines that can shoot multiple rounds, 50, 100 rounds. That's about high-capacity killing. I believe in a universal background check, but I will take anything at this point to break the ice, the logjam, and efforts that can save lives. So I'm hopeful that our Republican colleagues have heard the cries of citizens across the country and families who have lost a loved one to gun violence and are ready to come to the table and actually vote for something that begins to move greater safety for our citizens.